So I'm going to be cutting mine approximately 7 inches wide by about 15 inches long. And this just all depends on how big you want your toiletry bag to be. You can make it bigger, you can make it smaller, you can even make a little teeny tiny one just to keep your lipsticks in your purse. So this is all to your taste. There's no pattern. So I know I'm going to get asked that. Just remember, no pattern. You do the measure and make it yourself. So the next thing that I've done is I've taken cut some 2-inch wide strips, and some of them are, you can see they're about 12 inches long, and then the other one's about 8 inches long. I just did that because I used scraps. I had so many small pieces of this black and white fabric that I thought it would be okay to use that, and I used a strap piece from a pattern. It's not from, you don't need any particular pattern to do it. If you have a purse pattern laying around, typically they're 2 inches wide by however long, and this, I'm not making a strap, but it's the perfect size piece for the binding that I'm going to be making. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take each one of these strips and sew them together with right sides facing together. I'm not going to sew a complete circle. I'm going to leave them open. I'm just sewing them all together randomly, just so that I have one whole piece to make the binding that'll go around the outside of the toiletry bag. And I always try to I didn't really do any particular measuring. I want to have a little extra. It's better to go big than go too small. And once you get started on this, you can't really stop and sew an extra piece of binding onto it if you don't have enough. So I just make it really long, and then I might wrap it around just to see if it's going to fit okay, and then I know I've got enough, so I go with that. My next step is going to be to lay out the binding that I sewed together, the binding tape that I made, and I'm going to lay it with wrong side facing up, and I'm going to press open the seams, and then I'm going to press it until it's got 2 folds on the side, and then that's folded in the middle to make it binding tape. Okay, the first thing I want to do before I start doing any sewing or putting together is I want to fold this over and make a mark where I want the flap to end and the pocket of the bag to begin. We're just going to make 2 small little marks, nothing major, and they won't show when you get the binding or the bias tape, binding tape, bias tape. It's all the same thing. Obviously with this project you really can't do any pinning. Inside of the flap you want to find your middle point, and obviously if you cut this at 7 inches, your midpoint is going to be 3.5 inches. So going down a little ways, just keeping it about 1 inch or 2 from the top, I'm going to make a little dot in there, and that is where I'm going to put my first piece of hook and loop or velcro. So here is a little secret that I figured out all by my little old chunky self the other day when I was making. I made a couple of these. Save this stuff that you get on your clear vinyl. They asked me at the store if I wanted to keep it, and I said yes, because I had a feeling it would have a useful, future. So I'm just going to cut a little piece off. There's no certain way to measure that, and I'm going to put it up underneath there. You want it to be bigger than your piece of hook and loop or Velcro, and that way you can sew on this. And if you have a machine like I have, which is the Viking Husqvarna numero uno, you can set this to vinyl and it will sew. I really should put the walking foot on, but after that little incident of breaking one of these little screws the other day, I'm terrified to take this little ankle off, so I ain't doing it, y'all. I'm just going to do it this way. I'm using a regular foot, and I'm using the paper underneath here. I have it on a vinyl setting. It has automatically turned the stitch length and the tension and everything, so I'm just going to take it slow, doing a back stitch at the beginning and the end. And I'm going to sew this one on. Then I'm going to measure on the front side of this pocket here to find a place to put the second piece of Velcro, and I'm going to do the same thing there. Of course, I'm going to open it up. I'm not going to sew it through it, then it won't be a pocket anymore. So what I kind of decided to do at the last minute here, which I probably did with the first ones I made, I'm just, so close to the project I forget sometimes. But instead of like folding this together and connecting everything, or having to connect this and then, folding it over and it'd be kind of clumpy, what I'm going to do is on the end piece, which is going to be the top part of the pocket piece, I'm going to take a piece of binding and connect it. I want to trim it because it's a little frayed, so I want it to have a nice smooth edge, and I'm going to go right on the edge there, and I'm going to sew. And this is really, really easy. It may look intimidating, but I promise you that it is not. So then once I've got it folded over, what I want to do is take all of this binding tape that I created. I keep calling it binding tape, and I hope that I don't get any smarty pants comments. You guys know what I mean. So I'm going to start. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start on the bottom here, and I'm going to have to fold this over because we don't want any raw edge. Right. And then I'm going to start sewing all the way around. And this is the kind of thing where you just have to keep your hands really close to the work that you're doing, because if you go way back here, you're going to lose it and it's going to look really messy. So I'm going to take my time, but you guys are going to see this sped up. So once you get to a corner up here, you're going to have to stop, do your little back stitch. You can do it all the way to the corner. Don't do it down here. I started doing it that way myself, and then it was just, it didn't work. So you're going to fold your corner. You're going to make a corner. I'm sorry, you couldn't see me. You're going to fold your corner and make a little corner there. And if you've put your bias tape together right, it's going to come together pretty nicely right there. So I'm going to hold on to that, and I'm going to go over to the machine and I'm going to back tack. It's best to start over here and then back up and come back a time or two, because if you try to start on that bulk, your needle's just going to stick and sew in place. Okay, so you can see I'm almost to the bottom, and what I like to do is about 2/3 of an inch from the bottom. I like to stop. And what I'm going to do is cut about 1.25 inches below where I stopped, because I need to make a fold under. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to cut that off, and you see I did have plenty left with my little pieces there. So, alright, you can see here we've got our little toiletry bag. That's it. There are many different ways you could do this. You could actually cut the bottom and then you could go all the way around with this bias tape, which I didn't do with any of mine, and I was still happy with the way they turned out. But that, you know, I feel like this would hold together better. If you're keeping like your foundations and stuff in there, you want that bottom to be nice and sturdy, but hopefully you're not carrying like 50 pounds of foundation in it. I may list some of these in my Etsy store if you're interested in buying this one from the video. It can be made available to you at a discount through my Etsy shop. I'll just have like a code, like a Fate So Twisted or something, and you can get it for like $5. Go and get you some of that vinyl and grab some scraps and make you some toiletry bags. They make great gifts too. You could even put some little cosmetics in them to give away in the gift. So anyway, peace y'all. Bye bye.